Hello, I'm Maralis Mercado Emerson. The last time we were together, we talked about just a good foundation of how Afrolatinidad is being defined here in the United States and in some of our mother countries. I wanted to take a different approach this time because over the last year and a half, I have been focusing um, some of my endeavors on what healing looks like outside of Western medicine, not just for myself, but for my people. And so I present to you today Tierra Buena as a reminder that we come from good soil, we come from good stock. And when you plant something in good soil, it's bound to grow and produce fruit, good fruit, right? At least that's the hope. And so I want to come and share this with you from a perspective of what does it look like to step outside of our comfort zones and embrace some of the practices of the past so that we can continue healing into the future, knowing that right now it's a really difficult time in the world and some of us feel like it's on fire. And so, how do we reclaim these healing practices that have brought our ancestors joy, have brought us joy? Um, and what could that look like moving on to incorporate them in the research that we do and the work that we do on a daily basis? So tierra buena just means good soil. So the healing arts are creative practices that promote healing, wellness, and personal change. Traditionally, we're looking at music, art, dance, poetry, writing, theater, and I'm going to add to this food, right? Um, I don't miss a meal if I don't have to. And so it's really important, most of the time when we're having good conversations, when we're getting together with our people, it's around the kitchen table, right? Those are where hard conversations take place. That's where in the kitchen where healing takes place. And we're gonna talk about that and share a little bit about that today. And so I want you to consider food, music, and art medicine, right? Think about the person with dementia who, when you play a song from when they were a child, they revert right back to that moment and they become very aware of their surroundings. Or take a moment and close your eyes and walk into a space where your favorite meal is being served. What does that feel like? What memories come to mind? I can see a couple of folks smiling. That's pretty great, right? And so thinking about how food can heal us, particularly in today's society when we're being told that food is hurting us in many ways. But we know that it can actually heal, right? So the picture on the left just happens to be one of my favorite meals. It's called a pastelón. It's made with plátano. And a lot of the foods that we have on the islands and in a lot of our Latin American countries are either from the indigenous natives of that country and or brought over during the transatlantic slave trade to our country. So we would not have plátanos without West Africa. I can go anywhere on the continent of Africa, and I know that I'm going to eat very well and similar to what I'm used to eating because of what was brought over, right? On the right side, what you're seeing is a bate. And in many of our countries, we have very indigenous dances that we share with the community that are centered around community. This one just happens to be bomba, right? And bomba is really a dance of resistance. It was used by enslaved people in Puerto Rico to send messages across different plantations, but also to leave their sorrows and their joys and share those things in the bate, which is really a community circle, so that they could begin or even try to heal from what they were dealing with during their enslavement. And so now we're seeing that folks, millennials and what generation are we in? Gen Z and younger are reclaiming these dances, are reclaiming these food practices and the music. So they're learning about the different drum beats. They're learning how to make, their parents and grandparents and great grandparents meals and so on. They're doing the research to understand these things so that they can be handed off from one person to the next. And so the healing continues. It just looks different. Oh, there we go. So I wanted to share three pieces of art. One is a poem, the other one is an actual art piece, and the second and the third one is a song. And I just wanted to share these things with you so that you can, one, sit with it and ask yourselves, how does this make me feel? What message is coming across? How can this be applied to actual community healing and self-healing? Yeah. So this first piece is Victoria Santa Cruz, who is an amazing dancer, choreographer, activist, and poet from Panama. She's Afro-Panamanian. And she wrote this extremely powerful poem that I play on a regular basis, called Me Gritaron Negra. They called me black. And I wanted to share that with you today. Okay.
Tenía 7 años apenas 7 años. ¿Qué 7 años? No llegaba a 5 siquiera. De últimas voces en la calle me gritaron, negra, 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 negra. ¿Soy acaso negra? Me dije. Sí, ¿qué cosa es ser negra? Negra. Yo no sabía la triste verdad que aquello escondía. Negra. Y me sentí negra. Negra. Como ellos decían. Negra. Y retrocedí. Negra. Como ellos querían. Negra. Yo vi mis cabellos y mis labios gruesos y mi apenada mi carne tostada y retrocedí. Negra. Y retrocedí. Negra, 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 negra. Pasaba el tiempo, siempre amargada. Seguía llevando a mi espalda mi pesada carga. ¿Y cómo pesaba? Me alací el cabello, me volteé la cara. Y entre mis entrañas siempre resonaba la misma palabra. ¡Negra! 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 Hasta que un día que retrocedía y que iba a caer. ¡Negra! 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 Yo en adelante no quiero laciar mi cabello, no quiero. Y voy a reírme de aquellos que por evitar, según ellos, que por evitarnos algún sinsabor llaman a los negros gente de color. ¿Y de qué color? ¡Negro! ¿Y qué lindo fue? ¡Negro! ¿Y qué ritmo tiene? ¡Negro, negro, 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 negro! Al fin, así me entendí. Al fin, ya no retrocedo. Al fin, ya avanzo segura. Al fin, avanzo y espero. Al fin, y bendigo al cielo porque pido Dios que negro hasta vaya fuerte mi color. Ya te entendí. Al fin, ya tengo la llave.
All right. So that's actually one of my favorite pieces. Um, and I'm just a couple, I'm glad people are enjoying it. And so she is a very powerful poet and creator of art. And so she's also an example for me, at least, that, you know, as a child, I did not have very many examples of Afro Latinos who did art or wrote poetry or danced. Um, and so finding Victoria Santa Cruz was really important for me. I had Celia Cruz, right? But to hear that Black was good in my first language was really powerful for me at a young age to find. And so being able to see myself in Victoria, I'm a little lighter than she is. But to be able to hear that Black was good, that I didn't have to hide it, that I could be proud of it, was really, really important. And now you're seeing with our younger generation that we have more access to books and stories that and particularly children's books and stories that we didn't have before, both in Spanish and in English, right? You're seeing, as much as social media is extremely harmful for particularly for young people, you're seeing a lot of representation and people coming out and speaking about their Afro-Latinidad and sharing their experiences that we can share with each other. So we've built this community and are very much saying this is who we are. And then you'll see things like changes in the census where now I can actually choose to put Black and Latina and then my different ethnicities in the countries that I represent, which unfortunately is up on the chopping block because they're trying to change the census again. And that would have a profound effect on the healthcare and access to resources that my community would have, right? So the second piece I want to share, um, and this is by artist in Puerto Rico, and this is one of his pieces, La Bombera, and he is very much into um, his artwork is both in painting and in sculpture. He resides in Loíza, Puerto Rico, which is a predominantly Black, actually the Black community in Puerto Rico, the whole city, and one of the key cities where enslaved people lived, right? So it's right off the coast. And one of the major Bomba families is from, is from Loíza. And so, as I stated earlier, every country has their different forms. So if you go to Dominican Republic, you have palo. If you go to Colombia, they have their version. If you go to Mexico, there are Afro Mexicans. And so like we're thinking about what movement in our home countries looks like and how we can share that here. And you have organizations right here in Durham that are sharing these beautiful traditions of dance and music. For example, you have Taquiri that focuses on Colombian dance. There is a Bomba study. Yes, the film. So the artist, one of the artists that was in that film about Loíza in Puerto Rico, this is his artwork. And so I was reading the chat. And so we're thinking about here in Durham, who's sharing this artwork of Afro-Latinidad. You have the Durham Bomba Circle that meets every third Saturday of the month to dance and drum, and that's what we do. And so you have a couple of groups that are starting to share these Afro roots with their community, with the greater Durham and Triangle community, which is pretty amazing. And so imagine this. This picture doesn't actually give the original painting justice. This is actually painted in his workshop on the back wall. So it's about a 20 by 30 piece of artwork. So it takes up the whole, like it would take up the whole wall of your living room. Thank you, Viviana. for putting someone's name in there. And so getting to speak with him and meet him and his sons, he's passed down these traditions of artwork as a form of healing and as a form of resistance to really showcase Afro-Puerto Rican roots, not just on the island, but also here in the United States. And Viviana has shared a link to his work in the chat. And then the last piece is one of my favorite pieces. And I promise you that anytime this song comes on any dance, everybody's gonna get up to move. But it wasn't until my early 20s that I actually listened to the words of the song, right? It's like listening to a song you've been singing all your life, and then your 3-year-old starts singing it, and you realize that, ooh, you hear the song in a different way. For me, this was one of those songs. So not so much me sharing it with my kid, but me really getting into understanding who I was as a Latina and as an Afro-Latina, and doing the research and diving in. Yeah, like the What I Say Otra Vez, that's a whole other conversation. That song. And really understanding that, one, it was okay for me to say that I was Black because I am. And two, it's a and, not a or, right? This is who I am, and these are who my people are. And wanting to know more of my history and understanding, like, particularly the women in my family, because my family is very matriarchal. And how they went, I wouldn't be here without them. And so when I reheard this song for the first time, I was like, wait a minute, this song is way deeper than what we thought. And so I'm gonna play just a little bit of it because we got time. And then I just want I want to hear y'all for a second of like what you felt, what you heard, what you learned. There are no subtitles in this song, unfortunately. I couldn't find one, but that doesn't mean you can't feel this song. Fair? All right.